Hello everyone, this is Gaurav from Automation Hacks and welcome to a new video in our series on Gen AI for testing. Now in this video, we are going to take a step away from Copilot and all the IDs and kind of explore how you can work with LLMs or large language models locally. I've been exploring this space recently and I came across this wonderful open source library called as Ollama. And in this video, I'm going to give you an overview of how to work with this in order to run a LLM locally on your laptop. So what all will we cover? We will cover how do you use Docker in order to set up Ollama on your local laptop. We are going to take a look at how do you set up a web UI, something similar to ChatGPT, Claude, and couple of other LLMs that we have on your own machine in order to, sort of run some inference tasks and then ask certain questions, get certain response. And finally, we'll finish up by taking a look at Ollama API and understand how can you use the API in order for certain outcomes, right? So let's get started. I've written a blog on this topic already, so you can go to newsletter.automationhacks.io and then search for this running LLMs locally. We are going to use the same thing for this YouTube tutorial as well. If you prefer deep insights in software testing that will help you elevate your automation, then do give the newsletter a sub. I really appreciate it. Now, let's get started. So far, you must have been working with models like ChatGPT, Claude, and things like that, right? They are powerful. They also expose a business API that you can use for your day-to-day work. However, one of the limitations of open cloud LLMs is you don't really know how your data is being stored, whether it's being used for training or not. Of course, these are behind data privacy and security regulations, so you do have some protection in terms of guarantees from these providers that they are not going to use your data in a bad way. But still, it does require compliance. It does require security sort of sign off. So say you are someone who wants to just understand how do these models really work on local, then this is probably a very good solution to explore. The other thing is, if you use any of these APIs, they do cost, right? In some cases, a 20 for a simple subscription to even like $200 per month for a pro subscription. So yeah, some of these reasons why local LMs could be explored, they definitely are not a solution for all the problems that you could serve with a cloud model since they are much more powerful. But yeah, for certain use cases, a local LLM might do the job. And let's try to understand how do we work with it, because going forward, we might have different sorts of models coming out for different use cases. And it's pretty important to understand how to work with the technology, right? So let's start with Ollama. So if you go to Ollama's GitHub, they have it's an open source project, already has like 131K stars, 10,000 folks. It has a good open source community behind it. And they also have good documentation around how to set it up. I'm going to primarily use Mac OS for this video, but if you are on Windows, you can also download their uh, sort of exe, and it will give you an Ollama sort of UI right there. What we are going to use in this video is not the download from Mac OS, but we'll actually use the Docker sort of setup in order to have an isolated setup where we have our models downloaded and working. So let's look at that. So I already have Docker on my machine. If you are someone who is pretty new to Docker, it's a fantastic technology that I would suggest you get familiar with. To really start with, you can come to Docker site, go to Docker desktop, and then download Docker desktop for the platform of your choice. So yeah, I think here you can read some bit of documentation and then choose the platform. So I have a Mac on Apple Silicon, so that's what I have downloaded. But if you are on Windows, Linux, any other platform, or even an Intel laptop, please feel free to download and it will give you. So I have Docker running right now, and I can go to the dashboard just to show you how it is right now. You can see currently these two containers are actually not running. I did download them before, but I'll show you how the instructions work nevertheless. So let's come to the blog. This is the command that you can run on your local laptop to download the Ollama image and run the container. You can see it's a simple Docker run command wherein we use Ollama and then we kind of bind it to a directory on our machine. We expose it on 11434 port and give it a name along with specifying the image. So pretty straightforward. Let me show you how is it running right now or not. Okay, so here I have iTerm on my machine, and what I'm going to first do is check if Ollama is running. So I'm going to do docker ps-a since I want to take a look at all the running containers, and let me just search for Ollama. So what we can see is I do have Ollama here. It was downloaded 4 weeks ago, but it's not running. So I'll start it here, right? And it tells me, okay, Ollama. And if I do, the process again, I can see that this is now up 3 seconds ago. So it's running. Um, Also, if you are running this for the first time, you should run this command, which is there in the blog in order to download the image and run. So now, how do you work with different models, right? So actually, if you come to the Ollama site, you can see that there are different types of models that could be potentially downloaded. So you have DeepSeek-r1, 7 billion and 671 billion. You have the Llama models from Meta and bunch of other like Phi from Microsoft, Mistral, what else? Like there are different types of models. And this is an important thing to understand. So these models are pretty hungry for compute and memory on your machine. So you need at least 8 GB of RAM if you want to run a 7 billion model, 16 GB if you want to run 13 billion, and so on and so forth. So be mindful of the hardware capacities of your local laptop and choose the model of appropriate size. So say I want to run, the Llama 3.2 1 billion parameter model. I can do that easily by you running this command. So here what I'm doing is I'm using docker exec in interactive mode on the Ollama container. And then this is the command that I'm running, Ollama run, followed by the model, and then what specific version of that model I have. How did I figure out the model that I want to download? I just came here and I, picked the version of the model that I'm interested in. So let me just run this. This video is supported by Educative. Learning to code and design systems is like hitting the gym. You don't build strength by just watching workouts, you need hands-on reps, and that's exactly what Educative offers. Their interactive, text-based courses let you learn by doing, making concepts stick way faster than passive video tutorials. I've been diving into some killer courses. Grokking the Modern System Design Interview is a structured way of breaking real-world system design problems, super helpful for interviews. Grokking the Coding Interview Patterns. Instead of memorizing hundreds of lead code problems, this helps to recognize patterns that apply across questions and is a game changer. If you're serious about leveling up, Educative's interactive approach makes learning feel natural and efficient. No fluff, just real coding practice. Try it out, you'll feel the difference. You'll find a link to all these courses in the description box on this video. And now back to the video. Okay, so you can see now it should run, and I have this sort of command line kind of prompt. So the model is technically running. Let me show you. Let's just say, what is the date today? Be concise. And you can see, okay, today days, it doesn't really know. So it just gives the response. Now, the other interesting thing is, since I have Docker already running, I can come here and I can see that Ollama is up now, right? So I can come here and then take a look at stats. And what you can see is as soon as I gave that query, it kind of shot up on the CPU usage. It consumed certain amount of memory, did a bit of disk write, network IO, and things like that, right? So there are like, of course, needs that it has. And currently, this is a very lightweight model, right? So I can say like, as a test automation engineer, write a simple script to log into Google homepage in Selenium Java. Okay. And let's see what it comes up with. So nice streaming response on Selenium. I think tons of content on the internet. It should really come to no surprise that the amount of sort of responses that these models can come up with would be pretty accurate. And yeah, it looks quite good. Pretty fast as well, if you ask me. And you can see like, okay, it's consuming almost the entire CPU at this time, but still doesn't stretch a lot. Now, one thing I can recommend you before you start is you can come to Docker settings, come to resources, and you can also limit the CPU memory swap and the disk that you want Docker to have access to. So I have technically 10 CPUs and 32 GB of RAM, but I'm intentionally just cutting it to certain parameters in order to make sure that other apps are not impacted. But you can take a call. In case you're running a more heavy model, you can expose more, more of these system parameters. All right. So I think you get the gist of it. Now, let's make sure we can also have, DeepSeek-r1. Let's download that. So I'll just say bye for now. I think I'm good. And then I'll run the same command. This time I'll give Ollama run deepseek-r1. And what you would notice is the time that it takes for to come up with the shell is pretty fast, right? That's the reason is because I've run this command earlier and it has already downloaded the model. So yeah, should we do a comparison? If there is a difference between DeepSeek versus this. Okay, clearly it's taking a little bit more time than the 1 billion parameter model. The other reason why this is actually taking a bit of time is that DeepSeek-r1 is a reasoning model. And so it does, a lot of background thinking or reasoning before it comes up with a response. So in general, I've observed that this is good for reasoning tasks. And you can see here, okay, it's trying to think, and then it's also streaming the, parameters a little bit slowly. So we are going to let it sweat. We'll move on to other things in the meantime. If I come to Docker, let's see how we are doing on the resourcing bit. So you can see, all right, it's now pretty much bang on consuming more memory. It's close to 4 GB. The disk write is more, network is also kind of short up a little bit. So yeah, it's more demanding on your machine for sure. And I'm also not doing it any favors by sort of constraining the resources that it has access to. But anyhow, so now you have other models as well. So you have a 3.3, 3.2, other sort of things. Yeah, let's take it a step further and see how can we leverage a UI. So now the Ollama community has already come up with an Open Web UI that you can set up that allows you to have a very familiar chat interface that you might be used to on a cloud-based LLM. So I have this command here. What this is doing, it's setting up like the Open Web UI. So it's setting up this volume for Open Web UI, giving it a name, and then it's specifying where to pick up the code from, what is the host on Docker that it should kind of map to, and that it should run on 3000 port on our machine, on the local machine, and 8080 on within the Docker container. So I can again run this command. You should do it once in order to set up the container. Let this run in the meantime. Now, yeah, so I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to run that command again. You can see that if I come to containers, I have Open Web UI here. So I showed you that you can just use start as a way to, run. The other way to start a container could be you can also use the UI in case you don't want to use the terminal. So let me just start that. And let's see if Open Web UI is started. Hmm. And all right, it's kind of started on the local Docker container. Let's bring it up on our local machine. So you can have this. And yes, so we have your familiar chat UI with Open Web UI. They keep on pushing updates, so you can always update it as well. And you can choose different models that you might have downloaded. So let's not use R1. Let's again come back to our 1 billion parameter model, and we can pretty much like, let's see. All right. So DeepSeek is still going on. It's thinking, it's reasoning, what all it needs. So yeah, why not we just, I'll show you the same thing pretty much on the web UI and with Llama 3.2. Now here is where things might get interesting because the resources on your machine are finite and you're running two inferences at the same time. So I can actually just stop this in order to give Llama a bit more resources. Uh, so like if you're running two heavy models at the same time, it's kind of a no-brainer that you have limited capacity, in order to do things. So yeah, be mindful of what are the limitations with a local setup. All right, so yeah, you get the response pretty good, pretty similar to what you're used to. Other thing is you can start new chats. The UI is pretty similar to, I would say, like, Chat GPT for the matter. You have an admin panel, which is pretty interesting. You can go to settings and then do a bit of personalization. You can enable memory so that it remembers, certain important information for subsequent inferences. Um, Also on the admin side, you can do a bunch of additional things around, setting up Open API. Uh, you can see what models you have, what are the evaluations you want to run. Um, yeah, databases, pipelines, a lot of things to explore. Probably I'll make a more detailed video just exploring the UI and all the different things. You can also leave a title prompt and some default prompts. So it's pretty customizable onto how you want. I think even in your workplace you could have this sort of instance running, and that would help you just explore things a little bit better. Okay, so now coming to the third part. So I showed you how to download a model, run it via the terminal. I also showed you how you can run it using Open Web UI. There is an API, right? Like any other good open source tool. And yeah, Ollama has kind of documented it in a very, very good manner. Before that, you can still run, certain commands in order to create a custom model from a model file. We will probably get into some of these details a little bit later on how you can create a custom model that can do maybe something very specific to your use cases. Um, yeah, and you can list all the available models, check which models is currently running, which is, if you want to stop, you can stop it. So you have like CLI access in order to do some common tasks, right? Now, coming to the REST API, I think there is an extensive sort of API documentation wherein we can pretty much use, the API from Ollama in order to do certain actions. So I'll show you the two common APIs right now. So I have it already loaded on Postman. So let me just bring it up. All right, so I'll show you two operations. One is, there is an API to generate, and yeah, it pretty much just requires the URL here, and in the parameters you can see you can specify which model you want, what is the prompt, and whether you want the answer as a stream or you want the answer directly. And then there is this additional thing of temperature, which is like how creative do you want the model to be. So I've usually found like 0, 7 or 6 is pretty good in terms of balance between creativity and it being more formal. If you go to say like uh, point 1 or something, it will be very sort of formal and less creative in its thinking. So now say I want like, hey, can you write me a playwright test? And I just give it some instructions that make the code clean, concise, follow best practices, things like that. And I'm not going to give it an example right now, though this is a good practice when working in general with models, as we already saw. If you give it examples of how you want certain things to be, it latches on to those patterns while it's generating auto completions. So let me just run this. So the API call is going in. Let's see what it comes up with. So this is there. All right, so it came up with this sort of code. I don't know. Reading this like this might be a bit difficult. So let's just print it. So let me just start Python 3 and then I'll just do a print. I'll give it whatever we have here. And yeah, this looks a little bit easier. Um, hmm. I think it did not really do what I wanted it to do. The code doesn't look good. It's not playwright code. I can at least tell that much just by even looking at it. So yeah, I mean, models are like that. They need a bit of human intelligence right now for you to help them with the context and things like that. And since this is a pretty small model, the worldview or the knowledge it has is, of course, is a bit less. But just wanted to show you the API in order to show that this is possible, and you can, of course, take this API and then build things on top. Other thing is, it's pretty interesting that Open Web UI and Ollama also show what are the tokens the model actually returned. So this is the actual tokens the model actually generated. It also tells, like what was the total duration, how many evaluations were run, what's the duration, things like that. Some bit of additional meta information. Now, other thing is, if you want to build, say, something which is a bit more streaming in nature, you can also use /chat, which can give you like a back and forth sort of thing. So I can say, hey, can you tell me 5 techniques that, SDET should know? So let's just run this part. And here what you can see is, okay, the response is coming in. The only difference between generate and chat here would be like you can sort of, do back and forth sort of chatting similar to what you do. And also it gives you a, stream that you have to kind of read, wherein like the whole text is not given. You have to read the whole thing in order to get the text, and you have a flag like done, whether it's done generating or not. So these are just two common operations. You have, of course, other operations like creating a model, listing models, copy, delete, pull, push, generate embeddings, and things like that. So you can explore this on yourself, and I may explore this more in more detail and then make another video on it. By the way, let me know how are these videos shaping up. If you are learning something new from them and it's adding a bit of value in your career, why don't you give the channel a like and a sub? It will really motivate me to make more of these deep dive contents and put this out in the world. So that's all for now. So do read the blog in case you want a bit more deep dive sort of introduction to how to run local LLM models using Ollama. I hope this was useful. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.